So a very warm welcome, everyone, to this Menopause at Work network meeting, which is designed exactly for people like you, just to be able to come together and connect and learn from each other, but also learn from the presenters who've got a bit of expert knowledge as well about what does it really mean to support people through menopause in the workplace. So for anyone I haven't met, my name's Thea O'Connor. I'm a workplace wellbeing advisor. And since the end of 2018, I've been looking at how to help workplaces become menopause friendly. Now, as you can imagine, 5 years ago, it was really hard to find any workplaces who wanted to talk about this. And goodness, haven't things changed, particularly over the last year. So yes, about 5 years ago, it was very lonely, apart from a few other trailblazers. And one of those trailblazers, which I didn't know about at the time, was the Health and Community Services Union, who were the first union to start lobbying for reproductive and wellbeing leave, which could include menopause. And they saw that as a very important piece in the pie in tackling gender inequality in the workplace. So that's why I'm so delighted to have Kate Marshall, who is from HACSU. I'll introduce her properly shortly, who's made space in her busy day to be with us here today. Literally, she's squeezing us in between meetings. And an extra special thank you to Kate, because she did step in at very late notice. We had another presenter who just couldn't make it after all. So thank you for being here, Kate. The way the session runs is this is a network meeting. So we actually start with just a really brief 4 to 5 minute breakout room with someone else. So imagine you're at a live workshop and you need to just walk over to someone and say, hi, who are you? Where are you from? Have a bit of a chat. Then we'll come back and we'll get stuck into the main body of the session. Now, I'm just checking how many breakout rooms we might need. So there'll be 2 or 3 people in your room. So you will receive an invitation any moment now. Anyone who might have just joined, we're just doing a quick breakout room just to say hi to some other people who are here today. And yeah, so we have a chance to understand who's in the room and what experience they might have. So I'm just going to move someone around to make sure we've all got someone to chat to. Tanya, we're just going into some breakout rooms, so I'm just moving people around a bit here. Just making sure everyone's got someone to talk to. Is anyone in the main room? So what we might do, given that I think some of you have dipped out because not everyone joined, is Tanya, Joe, and Diane, we're just all in the main room. Would you just like to turn your cameras on and just say hi to each other and introduce yourself and where you're from? If not, that's fine. I'm going to move you around a little bit. And Joe, would you like me to pop you in a breakout room? I'll leave you there, Joe, unless you particularly would like me to move you to a breakout room. I'll just give people a few more minutes. And I'm just going to jump into one of the breakout rooms to see how things are going. So I'll be back very shortly.
There we go. Oh, okay. I didn't expect that. Usually a little number comes up on the screen and then that'll take us back. Hello, Thea.
Oh, hello.
I just do a little round just to see how people are going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. No, good. We were just getting to know each other. Where do you work? How long have you been there? Oh, bye-bye.
Oh, she's got.
That's all right.
Are you still there?
Got about 1 more minute just to let you know.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, she must bring us back into the.
Yeah, she does a little.
Great. Good to see some of you back here. We'll just wait until other people come in from cyberspace. Welcome back. People are just starting to come back from their breakout rooms. I think for some of you, it took me a little time to arrange the breakout rooms. I hope most of you had someone to chat to and that you met someone from another workplace. I've just got another 2 to come back. So we'll give them their 5 seconds that's allocated to them. And meanwhile, you can see that there's a poll on the screen here. I just thought it'd be really helpful to know what your opinion and your experience is around reproductive health and wellbeing leave. Great, so I can close that there. So for those of you who've just come back from your breakout room, you can see that there's a poll on the screen here. And yeah, would love it if you could just take a moment to answer the 2 questions. What do you think about the idea of reproductive health and wellbeing leave? You don't have to be in favour of it just because you're here today. And I'm also really interested to know if any of you have that kind of leave within your own workplace. And if you do, because I can see at least a few of you do, if you're happy to, just jotting down in the chat box that is the case and what organisation you're from, just in case someone else on the meeting, would love to hear more about your experience. Okay, so I think it looks like people have voted. So I'll just share the results with you so you can see that. And it's also nice for Kate, who's about to present to us, to see that also. So everyone here today thinks it is a good idea. And in terms of, do you have reproductive and wellbeing leave within your own workplace? We've got 2 people saying yes, 70% no, and 10% don't know. And that's always a good thing to realise, isn't it? And just go and find out if you don't actually know what the situation is in your workplace. Okay, and as mentioned, if you are happy to drop in the chat box, if you are from a workplace that has such leave, that's also really nice to know. So awesome, thanks Sarah. Charles Darwin University, you have menstrual reproductive menopause leave. Awesome, thanks for sharing that. Okay, so over to today's topic, which is clearly all about reproductive and wellbeing leave. So I'm going to hand over to Kate, who has kindly agreed to speak to us on this topic. So Kate Marshall, she's the Assistant National Secretary of the Health and Services Union and the Assistant State Secretary of HACSU, Victoria, which is the Health and Community Services Union. So Kate started working in the union movement way back, when she was at university, and she's worked in unions ever since, including in unions like the National Union of Workers and the Construction, Forestry and Maritime Employee Union as well. So she's got heaps of experience to bring, and I guess through all of that, her work, she has had a passion for the well-being of working women. And so she was behind, the push to get reproductive and wellbeing leave included in some of the enterprise bargaining agreements. And today she's agreed just to share with us a bit of background to the campaign and critically, how is it going? And any examples that she might have of workplaces that have adopted this. And then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A and discussion afterwards. So over to you, Kate. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. And sorry, I had to close my blind. I realized how dark I look like a shadow. I thought so you could actually see that I was there. I would close the blind. So yeah, as Thea said, we've been campaigning in this space since 2020. And it actually came from quite a personal space. I suppose I went through, as many women have, or many people have, a very prolonged journey with IVF. And it ate away, of course, all my personal leave, my annual leave, you know, those online who have been through it themselves know that you can't just make an appointment at a time that it may suit your employer. It's got to be between, you know, 10:30 and 10:45, and you've got to be in here at that time to get your shot, or else you've got to wait a whole next month. So I really started thinking about it. Thankfully, I had a wonderful employer that was able to, who said to me, you just do what you've got to do. In speaking to family and friends, and even some of our members who predominantly work in the mental health and disability fields, you don't have that luxury. I was incredibly lucky to have the space to be able to continue on that journey without the added pressure of being fired or being demoted or taken off projects, etc. So I really started talking to these women, and it started off talking about IVF, and then we started talking about journeys with endometriosis and people being in such pain that they couldn't stand up without being sick. We talked about people who were menstruating, who needed to go to the hospital and get iron transfusions because they were losing so much blood. And then there was a large group of people who were speaking about menopause and the sleepless nights, the breakthrough bleeds, the anxiety and the depression that can come along with it, and the ability to be able to have open conversations in the workplace rather than just being shut down and being told, no, that's what you're personal leave for, off you go. My argument has always been in that circumstance, well, you're not sick. Going through IVF doesn't mean you're sick. Having periods does not make you sick. Going through menopause, it's not an illness. Your personal leave is there for illness or for caring responsibilities. And as we know, women are the ones who use that leave predominantly for caring for other people. I know that my carer's leave now is used to leave work early to pick up someone who's got a blood nose or a tummy ache, or that's just the way the world works, and we don't have that personal leave for us. So when we do have these issues of a reproductive nature, we wanted the space, the leave, the flexibility, the openness to have the conversation on, hey, this is what's happening to me. It's not an illness, and I need the time and space to be able to cope with what is happening. We are incredibly lucky that since 2020 we brought this idea to the ACTU. The ACTU did come out in support of the cause back in 2020 when we launched the campaign in the Age. So September 13, 2020, in the Sunday Age, we did a big story on it, and Michelle O'Neill, the president of the ACTU, came out and supported it. Since then, we've had a lot of unions jump on board, and I know the FSU have done a great job in advocating in that space as well. So in the larger banks and the superannuation firms, they're really advocating hard. They're going a bit different to what we have. So we've got the reproductive health and wellbeing, which and I hate the word journey, but it does encompass your journey through from, you know, when you're at work and you start menstruating all the way through to menopause, going through any reproductive issues in the meantime. So our clause covers all that. The FSU has decided to focus on menstruation leave and menopause leave, which is still fantastic. And they've decided to do that because they wanted those words in agreements. They wanted the word menstruation and they wanted menopause in the agreement. And they have been successful in some cases. Other cases not so successful, but it's the same with us. So we spoke at the ACT conference and we said, you know, we'd love to come here and give you a glowing report of how fantastic it is and how everyone's accepting it with open arms. That's not the case. And it is a journey and we have to keep pushing forward. I did though see, it only popped up to my attention today, there was a paper, I don't know if we've got anyone from WA online, but there was a paper in the paper distributed in the WA, which has an article which says bosses have been issued with a warning that they risk breaching equality laws unless they allow menopausal women to wear cooler uniforms and work from home on hot days. The Equality and Human Rights Commission also says that women suffering from hot flushes or brain fog should be given quiet rooms to rest in and have fans or air conditioning in their workplaces. Bosses could be found guilty of discrimination if they penalise staff for taking time off when they are suffering. So there is, as Thea said, there is more of a movement. There is more of a conversation happening, which is fantastic, that people are actually made to have conversations about it rather than sweep it under the rug as women's business, and we don't talk about that here. So we have been lucky. We've got it in a few agreements. So I'll name a few employers that we're successful in getting it in. So Aruma, so as I said, we're disability mental health predominantly. So Aruma is a disability service. We've got it up there. Home at Scope, we've got it there, which is a version of Scope. Urala have also been very successful in adapting it. But I suppose the big thing for us is when we go into negotiations, particularly with government bodies. So our mental health members are employed by the Victorian government. We have a chat to them and say, yep, this is what we want. They keep saying, great idea, but it's going to cost a lot and the sky's going to fall in because we're a female dominated industry and we can't commit to that unless it's government policy. So being one for liking a challenge, we decided to go off and speak to the Bank West Curtin Economic Centre in WA, who did the price costing model for family domestic violence leave. And we've asked them to start looking into what the actual costs would be. So that's going to be a work in progress, but our aim is that at a national level, not just at a Victorian level, that this becomes government policy. We've had some great meetings and letters with members of Parliament, including the Prime Minister, who is very much for it in theory, but again, would like to see how the cost, so they're doing their own costing. And I'm not saying I don't trust them, but we'd like our own costing as well. So that's what we've engaged Curtin to do. So we're incredibly excited at a HSU national level to continue the work that's been going on since 2020. So we drew up these two women's plans. So the purple is state, the yellow is national, and we've been circulating them to MPs. And really what we're asking is a minimum of 12 days for someone to actually cope with any issue of a reproductive nature. So whether that's taking leave to go for IVF purposes, to deal with symptoms relating to menopause, to deal with pain or excessive bleeding, with anything, whether it be endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, just menstruation, whatever you need, that minimum of 12 days is there. We have also asked, probably more importantly too, for a lot of our members' perspective, is not so much the time off, but it's that flexibility. So yes, you've got a right to speak to your boss at the moment under the Fair Work Act for those flexible working arrangements, but it doesn't have that link back really to reproductive leave. It really talks about caring responsibilities and the like. So we really wanted that flexibility where you may not need a day off, but you need you know, a shift in your time so that you can have a sleep after a restless night, or that, you know, if you're experiencing brain fog, that there are other duties that you may be able to perform so that you can still be productive in the workforce, not be removed from the workforce, but have the workforce work for you and what you need, rather than you trying to fit the mold, which we've done for well, since women joined the workforce, really. We are really, and that's something that we're really strong on, is that we need the workforce to work for us, not the other way around. And that has been some comments that we've had back to us in negotiation too. And I'd like to say that it is an all-male negotiating team that we are talking to. So there's a lot of conversations on, but why now? Why do you need it now? Like, well, we've always needed it, but now that there's a platform and a conversation that we're able to have these conversations with you. We've also got a claim to around pregnancy loss, and actually having the time to, you know, if you do lose a pregnancy, that you're able to have that time to cope with the loss, but also if you lose a pregnancy further along, that you have extra time to deal with anything else that, you know, because obviously it becomes more complicated the further along you are. The comment back was from a male, I have been through this as well, and I didn't need that amount of time. In fact, going back to the workplace was the best thing. I was like, you may have supported someone and felt a loss, but you actually haven't physically gone through that. Then there was a bit of a jibe of, okay, well, you can have it, but you can only get it for like the first 2 losses. And then you don't get it for any loss after that. And, you know, as someone who's been through an IVF journey, a loss is something that can be quite common. And when you're up to your 5th, 6th, 7th loss, to say, no, you've met your quota, you cannot take any more time off, that is really a slap in the face, because that is actually when you probably need it the most. Yeah, it's been a journey, and as I said, some of the private employers have really engaged with it and realised that if you actually put money and invest in women, you're going to get tenfold back. That people are more open about why they need time off. There's no you know, oh, I've got a migraine or I've got this. People know exactly what is going on with their employees. It has been, those who have adopted it, we've had nothing but positive feedback back. Those that haven't adopted it, the big barrier is cost. We don't know what it'll be cost. People will, and it's the same arguments we heard with family and domestic violence leave. People will manipulate it. People will lie about it. People won't tell us the truth. It'll be overutilized. And we've actually seen the opposite with family and domestic violence leave. It hasn't been abused. In fact, the opposite. In fact, we, you know of people who should be taking it and don't. And we really think, and so does Curtin University, think that this reproductive leave is going to follow the same model. So the HSU is really throwing time and money behind this. We really want this to get up at a national level. And yeah, we're really excited that the conversation's opening up, that we've got people in this space. As I said before, I work very closely with the FSU to see what's going on in other sectors, because I'm in my little health bubble over here. But it is incredibly exciting to see this space grow and conversations occur. I'm not sure whether there's a Senate inquiry at the federal level into issues pertaining to menopause and perimenopause, which we have submitted to. So it's really exciting that conversation is happening in that space as well. I'm off to Sydney tomorrow to have more conversations at that federal level. Yeah, we're really excited to look at the funding issue, and also the other side of it too is, for us, it's not only funding and getting this leave up, it's also having cost-effective and timely access to public women's health services to ensure that people who need that extra medical intervention when it comes to whether it be hormone therapies or whatever it may be, that they have timely and cost-effective ways of seeking that help. And at the moment, the access to public women's health service in Australia is not that crash hot, and we really want more investment into the public women's health services. So in Victoria, before he stepped down, Premier Andrews did commit to 10 more public women's health services, and 6 of those would be in regional areas, which is fantastic because we've had people obviously having to take a couple of days off to travel to Melbourne and then come back again. So that is absolutely fantastic. But that's the other conversation that I'm having along the side, is that we need this recognised, we need this leaving, we need the flexibility there, we need the conversation to be having, but then we also need access for people to get help, further medical help if they require it as well. I might stop there. I feel like I've been
That's great.
So I might stop there and see if anyone's got any questions. I may not be able to answer everything, so please forgive me if I've got to take on notice, but I will get back to you through Thea if I can.
No, that was great to immerse us in your world for a bit there, Kate, and thank you for all that. So tough conversations you must have been having. I've got heaps of questions, but I'd love to throw it over to participants first. If you have, just pop your hand up and we'll get you to unmute your microphone. People a bit slow, I'll launch in. I'm warning you. Okay, go Sue.
Thanks, Kate. That's really inspiring that you're taking the baton for action and holding people account to embrace what's really lacking. I just wonder whether, in terms of I guess your network across the world, are you relying, or can you rely on some of the work that's been done in other parts of the world to say, look, this is stock standard support that's provided in this part of the world. This is how they transitioned. This is what the benefit's been, so that you've got sort of like a case study.
100%. So we've been working quite closely with Marion Baird from University of Sydney. So we've got, and also with professors from Melbourne IVF. So we've got the medical professionals, we've got the academics, and we've had a look at some things that have been going on. Ireland is obviously way ahead of its time. And there's countries that really surprise me. Like, there are 17 countries across the world that we know of at the moment that have menstrual and menopause leave options. And some of those are countries that I would not even consider. So South Korea, Indonesia, they've got the leave. Japan have had menstrual leave for over 70 years. The Spanish cabinet has approved menstrual leave law. So it is, there you go, Scotland. So that's really important as well. It's fantastic to see what's been going on, and it just seems absurd to me that countries like Australia, predominant the UK, don't have this as stock standard. It is just such common sense to me. The sky hasn't caved in for 17 other countries. So we are using what's been done there. We know that we're not recreating the wheel. So we're using some of their ideas. We've got a contact in Ireland who's given us some stuff. So we're really pulling all that stuff together. And I suppose that's what's really got the attention, of the Prime Minister's office, for example, that has agreed to sit down with us and have the conversation. So,
Does that include reproductive, like the IVF leave? And okay, right.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've always been one, as I've said before, the FSU have really focused on menstruation, menopause, and that is absolutely fantastic. Whatever you need to get it across the line. And I understand the politics of it and why they're doing it that way. For us, our members were very staunch on, no, it's everything to do with your reproductive life. It also includes things like, you know, time off to get, you know, hysterectomies, and then the flexibility once obviously menopause hits. So, or any cancer treatments as well to do with your reproductive. So we wanted to encompass anything to do with your reproductive health and well-being that would be included and would be part of that leave. And we did that. It wasn't just a snap decision. We actually did that with consultation with Melbourne IVF and said, what are the pros and cons of doing it like this? What are we, you know, doing it? And we knew it would be a harder sell, but we really wanted to push that narrative, and we want to get it right. So if it takes us a little bit longer, so be it. At least, yeah, hopefully when we get it, it'll be all encompassing.
Thanks, Kate. There's one question here. Can you share any guidance from Marion Baird's work and guide? Yeah, can you share any insights? Sorry.
Marion and Elizabeth Hill have been, and Sydney Khaleesi have been just amazing. Their team at the University of Sydney, we've been working them since, so we launched this. They got in touch with us straight after. So we've really been working since late 2020, early 2021 with them. It's been a very long project and a long, there's been heaps of insights. So I'm sure I can send across some bits and pieces to you, Thea, for distribution. I mean, they've done some research which echoes what we found with our members, and that is those that have implemented it have seen, you know, it wasn't a huge cost. It wasn't a huge outlay for them. It was an outlay, but it wasn't a huge outlay. But the productivity measures that they've actually got back have been amazing. We also, although I say we, I feel like I've been on the journey with them, but there's also been a study done of, and I think I spoke to you about this before, Thea, AFLW players, where there are some clubs who have decided to treat their female players like their male players and have told them that they are expected to go on the birth control pill and to miss periods. So that's what some people have done. There are other clubs that have got 4 different training groups, and depending on what week you are in your cycle is which training group you actually join. Obviously, you know, just before your period, you're obviously flatter, you're not as active, you're not as sharp, I guess. So they do a different set of skills to someone who may be in week 2 of their cycle, which is a lot more high intensity. So that is incredibly, the outcome of that just speaks for itself. So those teams are actually performing obviously at a much higher level because the training is catered for where they are in their cycle, and they're working with women's bodies rather than against them. So there has been some fantastic projects. Marion, Elizabeth and Sydney are just, they're just amazing. I can't speak more highly of them. They've also made a submission into the menopause and perimenopause, which is available to the public if you want to have a look at that. But their research papers have been instrumental to pushing us forward in our campaign. So yeah, I'm happy to share some bits and pieces with you, Thea, that you can distribute amongst the members.
Yeah, that would be great. And also the beauty of their work is they are academic, so they have to be quite objective, and
Yes.
they'll also point to, you know, the possible downsides of reproductive leave as well. So yeah, it makes for a good read.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the government's appointed Marion to the Fair Work Commission on an advisory panel. So to have her voice heard at that industrial level too is amazing.
Yes. Yes, and I remember reading some work of Sally King in the UK around reproductive leave and just pointing out, yes, there are other countries that have them, but in some of those countries, the gender inequality is way worse than in Australia. And it's actually, it might not be enhancing, you know, women's brand in the workplace. They're reducing women to, oh, you have to make babies, so let's give you time off.
Yes.
And even have to provide evidence, you know, that they're actually menstruating. So the cultural context definitely matters too, doesn't it? And all that has to be taken into account.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyone else with a question? Look, one thing I'd like to ask you, Kate, I'm going to jump in,
Yep.
is I'd love to hear a little bit more about, I think you mentioned a survey, was it maybe of your own workers, and you asked them how many of them wanted leave? And there was actually quite a few who were saying, actually, I'd prefer to keep working if I can. And that definitely comes out of the work that I do, that what women, yes, some will need leave for sure, but they want the flexibility and the accommodation so they can keep working. What are the levers that can be pulled to make that readily available for people going through menopause without it having to be deemed a disability? Because you'd be aware at the moment, if the symptoms are severe enough and bad enough, it could be deemed a disability, and then you're entitled to accommodations and flexibility. But we don't want to have to go down that route. Is there any way, what are the possibilities there of making those two things more accessible?
Yeah, so that is true. That's what our members have told us, is that yes, there are some times where we need to take time away from the workforce, but ultimately we want to be part of the workforce. We don't want to take time off if we don't have to, and we don't need to. It may be, you know, just a switch in hours, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of the feedback came from our members who are nurses. So they're on the ground a lot. And it came to a peak, just for a bit of history, into this idea where it was during the COVID lockdowns, where obviously frontline workers were being rushed off their feet. They were understaffed, under-resourced. And a lot of our nurses going through menopause decided, no, I can't do this anymore. We're not getting the staff in. We're run off our feet. I'm experiencing menopause. I'm going to retire early. And that scared me, obviously, with my other hat on, being a director of HESTA, was, oh my God, you're going to retire early. There's already the gender pay gap in super. You are leaving early, which means there's going to be an even bigger gap. And it's all because we can't make adjustments around helping you cope with your menopausal symptoms. So in conversations we've had with some health providers, most health providers have a breastfeeding or a feeding room where it's private, there's a lockable door, and there's in our agreements you need to have some sort of fridge in there to store breast milk, whether it when you pump. So what we've done in some places is we've asked if those particular rooms can be temperature controlled, which they can be, because they are all shut off. So in some of the places that accept this, our clause, those rooms are now temperature controlled by whoever's in there, and they're able to, there's recliner chairs in there, and they're able to sit there in a cooler temperature if need be. We've negotiated more breaks if need be. So rather than taking, you know, an hour for lunch, they take half an hour for lunch, and there are some extra time spaces where people have needed to walk off the ward and have them spaced as well. We've negotiated, as I've said, change in times where shift starts, so that if people have had a sleepless night, that they're able to start a shift later, because really that is a OH&S issue when you send someone into a workforce like nursing exhausted, asking them to care for people that they're not fit to do so. And we, you know, that'll just lead to other complications down the line. So, you know, give them an extra 3 hours. It means there won't be a catastrophic thing that happens due to time. We don't have to go through it. It's a win-win for everyone. So that's been implemented in some cases. There has also been, it's actually been really good where, particularly in nursing wards, a lot of our nurses who are experiencing menopause have almost formed like their little mini sub-union. And they've all gone in and say, this is what we demand, this is what we need. So there's strength in numbers, right? So they're actually going in and saying to their employer, this is what we need above the clause. And those things have been implemented as well. Yeah, it has actually been really exciting to see these nurses embrace the power, I suppose, that comes of, we're going through this thing called menopause. Let's get together, let's power up, and let's get what we need. And it's awesome that they have the confidence and the now the mechanisms through their agreements to actually have these conversations.
Great. That's so great to hear that you've been able to negotiate some of those other little tweaks, which can make all the difference.
It can make all the difference, absolutely. And we wouldn't hesitate. This is the thing, is that we don't hesitate. If I said, you know, oh, my childcare pickup's fallen through, I've got to pick the kids up from school, most bosses would be like, oh, all right, like that's what you need. Like, people don't think twice about that. But if you say, hey, I've got brain fog because of menopause, I can imagine a lot of people look at you like, huh? No, you can work through that. Sometimes you can't work through that, but sometimes you just need 20 minutes and a walk around the block and some inner peace to be able to come back and do what you need to do.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, open for questions or comments or sharing of experience. I know that at the beginning when we ran the poll, I think everyone on the line agreed that this kind of leave was a good idea, but I think only 2 of you had something like that. So that's I mean, you've been involved in many difficult conversations. What are your top tips for selling this idea in case some of the people on the line want to go back and start raising the possibility? What are your top selling tips?
Yeah, this is a question that came up at the ACTU conference as well. Listen, as I said earlier, I wish I could come here and say everyone just loved it and adopted it and took it aboard. It really is, you know, this isn't a space where we've had massive wins yet, but we will. And how we're going to get those wins is through conversations like this one, and then you guys going back and having more conversations, and then it keep rolling on. And unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, we have to bring the boys along for the ride as well. And there has been circumstances where I've had to have my boss say to the room of male negotiators at me, hey guys, this is actually a really good idea. And then they've listened a little bit more when it comes from, and I hate saying that and I hate using that, but that is something that has actually helped, unfortunately. So it's, but from our state perspective, so we've got Paul Healy here at the state perspective who sells it as well, Lloyd Williams at our national level, who has been absolutely instrumental and comes along to the MP meetings as well. They both let me take the lead, obviously, but they're there backing me in every step of the way, and that does help. It also helps when, you know, you're having these conversations predominantly with men. Yes, you may not go through menopause, but you have a mother. Do you have a wife? Do you have a sister? Do you have a daughter? Would you expect her to deal, like, I'll give you the cold hard facts, like I don't sugarcoat things. You know, let's look at the cold hard facts of what a woman actually goes through throughout her menstrual life. How would you expect your daughter, your mother, your wife, your sister to actually cope with this? And really,
appeal to the person.
But also don't sugarcoat it. Like, you know, some of the things that we go through as women are full on and confronting, and you know, we should be talking about that more and not sugarcoating it. And I don't really care if they're uncomfortable about it, to be honest. It's I think as women in the workplace, we've been made, or we've been felt to suppress, you know, what we've been going through and try and match up with the boys. I mean, even in high school, and I remember doing it. I could still see young girls doing it with pads and tampons up the sleeve of their jumpers because no one's to know that you've got your period. I don't know why we do that, and I don't know why it's an embarrassing thing to have a conversation about. It shouldn't be, and that's why I think this conversation around menstruating and menopause is just so important, particularly menopause too. I mean, you know, as young girls, you have conversations, if you're lucky, about, you know, what menstruating actually means. But when it comes to menopause, it can actually be quite scary because no one is having that conversation with you unless you go to your GP. So what does that mean? And am I going through it, or have I just missed a period this month? How you know, so these questions are incredibly, it's important to ask questions, important to have the conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And Melissa's, just talking about, being able to build the business case. So the sooner we can get that study happening, the better. But in the meantime, there's case studies. And I would love to somehow be able to encourage those workplaces who have adopted to at least start collecting some data. Exactly. Because there's also the social proof that you can give to your boss and go, well, so-and-so is doing it, and this is how it's going for them. So can we get some case studies from them, Kate?
Yeah, and this is the big thing. And in speaking to Bankwest at Curtin too, we have, like, our members have come to us and said, well, this is why this is how many days I've taken off in relation to reproductive leave. This is why I've needed to take it. This has been the response. So we've got that data. What we don't have is the data from the employers saying, well, this is what it cost me. This is the cost benefit. Yes. And that's why we've decided to have a chat to Bankwest at Curtin. And they're really keen to get out there and really start collecting that data and case studies. That stuff is gold. But I was just hitting brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. So we really need to engage a research centre now to actually go out and do it. Now it comes to me sort of bargaining with the bosses, say, come on, it's money well spent, let's go, which I don't think will be a problem. But it's got to be really exciting to get that research off the ground. It may take a little while. I think they're saying in between 6 months and a year. But as I said before, I want to get it right. Yes. I don't want to sort of get something and then have it fall apart because government's found a loophole and doesn't want to introduce it as policy. So I want to get it right. I want all the costings to be there, and then I want to have that conversation once we have the costings and those case studies. But case studies are gold, and I was really excited to see that Charles Darwin has it. That is awesome. Doesn't surprise me. The universities seem to be quite, some universities seem to be quite progressive and really, really good in this space. But yeah, as I said, I'm sort of in my health bubble. It'd be really good to see what's happening elsewhere. I know another CBUS has adopted it as well, which is fantastic. But we need, the more big employers that we can have say, hey, we've done it and the sky hasn't fallen in. I'm hoping that the domino effect will happen and everyone else will just take it. So yeah,
absolutely. Okay, we're probably up for our final question. Has anyone got a final question? Because then what we're going to do is just go back into breakout rooms and with a few more people and just share what's happening in your workplace. What did you learn? Is there anything you could take away from today? But does anyone have any final questions? Awesome. You might even get a little 5 minutes before your next meeting, Kate. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Yeah. So look, again, let's just, appreciation for Kate for making time today and sharing all of your experience. And just be aware that there is quite an extensive network here of workplaces. If you ever need any to participate in some of that research, we could probably find you a few. Yeah. Yeah,
I would absolutely love that. I've got a meeting with Curtin, I think again in April. So, now I've got you as a contact here. I might reach out more and more and see where we can get to and really get this across the line. So, exciting times. So thank you all for listening to my ramblings.